If you just joined, please type in the chat, what is your big 5-year goal, where you're located, and what brand you're with. The important question is, what is your big 5-year goal? I'll say it one more time. So my name is Aren Johnstone. I'm the president and one of the owners here at Franchise Ramp. And I'm very excited about today's session because our mission here at Franchise Ramp is to help franchisees achieve their entrepreneurial dreams. I'm super excited to have Justin on today's call to discuss EOS. As a business owner at Franchise Ramp, EOS has been an absolutely huge part of my life and our business here over the last few years. We are a fully adopted EOS company. We hired an implementer and whenever we first started the business, and it was by far the best single business decision I have ever made. Justin is a franchisee. He's an EOS franchisee. He has over 15 years of experience working in franchising and franchise marketing, kind of across the board. He's an extremely talented, smart individual, and I'm super excited and proud to know him and have him on the call today. So there really is no one better to walk you through how EOS could possibly be a tool to help you achieve your 5-year business goal. Justin, I'll kick that off to you, sir.
Thanks, Aren. That was maybe the nicest introduction I've ever received. So I appreciate you reading it word for word as I wrote it down for you. So thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I've got like 60 seconds to convince you that this is not going to be like a complete waste of your time. And also to convince you to put your cell phone down, stop looking at your email. So I'm gonna give you the 60-second elevator on why this is going to be a powerful 60 minutes for you. First, I'm going to be real with you, and I'm going to ask you guys to be real about thinking about your business during our time together. I am a failed entrepreneur, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my story, but I want you to think and be honest with yourself as we go through this content today about really kind of close your eyes, hover outside of your head from the day-to-day grind of being in the business, and think about real brutal honesty and self-awareness about where your struggles are today. I think if you can adapt that mindset as we go through an overview of EOS and some of the tools, it's going to really help you understand it better and how it could potentially impact your business in a positive way. Second promise I'm going to make to you is whenever you close this Zoom window, if you stick with us for the hour, you're going to have at least one nugget that you can use to take back into your business starting an hour from now to run your business better. Third promise to you is that we're going to keep it simple. This is not this is an elegant model designed for entrepreneurial businesses. It was not designed for Microsoft. It was designed for small to medium-sized business owners like yourself who need simplified tools to execute, run their business better, more efficiently, more profit, more growth, more fun, more time with their families. So we're going to keep things real simple. And the fourth promise I'm going to make is that this is all actionable, battle-tested tools used by, I think the last count I heard, people like myself, professional EOS implementers, have worked with close to 11,000 different businesses. We've run close to 100,000 full-day sessions over the last decade. So none of this is theory. This is iron sharpens iron. This is the result of sitting with thousands of business owners, thousands of hours, and refining this model over time. So that's my promise to you. That's why I think this hour is going to be really powerful for you guys. So everything I'm going to share with you today was created by a lifelong entrepreneur named Gino Wickman. For those of you who are familiar with Traction, I'm sure some of you guys have read the book or at least familiar with it. That's the book that introduced EOS to the world. It was written by Gino. He got called in to run a family business when he was in his early 20s, was in need of a turnaround. His dad was running it and wanted to get out of the business. Gino turned it around in 3 years, ran that business for 7, ultimately exited successfully. And over the next 18 months, Gino spent transitioning to the new leadership team. He also was one of the founding charter members of EO, the entrepreneurial organization in Detroit. And that's when he started kind of cobbling together the components, the pieces, the parts of EOS. He discovered that he had a real knack and a passion for understanding the art and the discipline of running a great entrepreneurial business. And so that's when he started to take all these disciplines and elements that have been around for 100 years, and they'll probably be around for another 1,000. There's no magic bullet. There's no matrix red pill in this model. It's all fundamental disciplines that have been effective throughout the years, throughout really the history of entrepreneurism. So I told you a little bit about the background. We've run close to 100,000 sessions, really battle tested with business owners like yourself. I'll give you a little bit of my story. I teased a little bit with the failed entrepreneur. I discovered entrepreneurism in my early 20s. I had a corporate desk job. I started up a little business on the side that ultimately was just on the weekends and ended up earning me more income, 10 hours a week than my full-time desk 9 to 5 was a lot more fun. And so that really kind of kicked off my passion for entrepreneurism. And everyone on this call, I'm sure, can relate. There's a lot of highs and lows on that journey. A big high for me was sitting down in a park in Dallas, Texas, with a former colleague and leader over a food truck sandwich and dreaming up an idea saying, what do we want to do? And dreaming up an idea for this crazy music marketing data technology company that today has 75 employees. We raised $9 million. It's a thriving business almost 9 years later. But here's the failure part, the low that followed. I had a health crisis, partially brought on by the grind of being in a startup and being employee number 0. And, at the time, I just thought being an entrepreneur after that experience was synonymous with chaos, with stress. I thought it meant you just had to sacrifice your emotional, your physical well-being, your relationships. I was engaged at the time and my health was failing. So I took a step back from entrepreneurism after that experience. And was a real failure, also a real lesson, because about a few years later, I had a client, actually a franchise, really successful franchise, hand me a copy of Traction. And I read it and it was a light bulb moment. And I thought, where has this been? Where was this in my career? There's actually a light at the end of the tunnel. There are solutions and answers for what I thought was unsolvable problems that all entrepreneurs face. So I decided to make the move back into entrepreneurial career. I joined an early stage startup as their first leader, other than the founder. He read Traction. He fell in love. We implemented it right when I started in that business. And within 6 months, our revenue velocity had doubled. And the founder, who has, God bless his heart, has 8 kids, went from working 70, 80-hour weeks to 40 hours a week. So that just brought it all home for me, that this wasn't theory. This was a model that really has real world application and power. And so that's when I combined my passions for entrepreneurism with my newfound passion for EOS. And really, I just wanted to help other entrepreneurs avoid the same kind of really life-altering not even speed bumps, mountains that I had faced, and just, live a better life, run a better business, get more of what they want out of their business using these simple tools in this model. So we're going to jump into the model here, but and that's where we're going to spend the rest of our time together. But I would love, Aren, if you could say maybe some of the 5-year goals that people wrote down. I'm going to write a few of them down, and maybe we'll refer back to them as we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, hopefully everyone has the Captivo link.
Yep.
Aren, I don't know if that maybe needs to be shared again, but if you guys click on that link, you'll be able to see my whiteboard on your screen like I'm writing on your monitor.
Yeah. So anybody, if you open the chat box, it should be at the bottom of your Zoom window. There's a button that says chat. Just shared a Captivo link, so you'll be able to actually on your own screen see what Justin's drawing on the whiteboard. And so make sure you follow along. So a couple of the 5-year goals here, Justin.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, everybody. We very much appreciate it. Bill Lockett's 5-year goal is to become the strategic director, owner, and investor in his business, and not the operator or manager.
Got it. By the way, we write everything and try to write it in 3 words or less in EOS. You're going to get the gist here that less is more in EOS model. So we try to drill down to just the core root of everything. So I'll keep these, I'll truncate some of these. So that's Bill, our strategic owner, not the operator.
A few people had very similar goals to sell within 5 years. Raquel's was very similar to the first one, of have 0 involvement in the day-to-day operations.
Got it.
Patrick was very specific, $2 million capital accumulation, $33,000 a month.
Got it. Maybe a couple more.
To retire from my job in 2 to 3 years.
Love that.
And anyone else? Let's see, there's a scroll up to the top here. Fruitful exit, attain and exceed EBITDA goal.
Got it. Exceed EBITDA goal. All right. Well, thanks for sharing, everybody. I love it. In fact, these are pretty common with EOS businesses and clients. I hear a lot. It's interesting that you guys share what so many EOS business leaders share, and that's get out of that day-to-day grind, hover up and out. And we're going to go through how EOS can help you, what we call delegate and elevate when we get into the people component. But we're going to go through the model from top to bottom. So we're going to start with your business at the center. And we're going to talk about a journey that we take. And this journey, this model, and the journey that businesses go on when they adopt EOS meaningfully within their business is based on a discovery that all businesses in the history of recorded history of entrepreneurism are facing about 130 of the same issues at any given time, right? They're all just kind of nuanced tweaks of the same 130 core issues. And to the extent that a business can get strong in what we call the 6 key components of the business, those 130 issues just kind of fall into line because they are really symptoms that manifest relative to just a core small set of root problems. And so again, to the extent that we can get a business strong in those 6 key components, it's almost like a parting of the skies where those 130 issues just fall into place almost magically because everything's working together harmoniously and with efficiency and real clarity. So I'm going to walk you through those 6 key components. We're going to take 2 passes around the model. First pass is the what. What are the 6 key components? The second pass, we're going to go through each one, and it's going to be more of the how. So first component is called vision. And on the second pass, I'll go through the 2 key tools or disciplines within each component. And vision is just about getting everyone in the organization, starting with the leadership team, on the same page about where the organization is headed and how you're going to get there. Next is people. And simply put, you cannot achieve a great vision without great people. So we're going to cut through all the niceties and jargon about A players and top quartile and high PO and really get to the heart of what makes for great people in your unique organization. Next is data. Data is about running the business on hard facts and figures, objective information, instead of the emotion, the ego, the subjectivity that drives decision-making at so many organizations, not just small ones, but even big ones have that issue. So data is the next. Once you're strong in people, vision, and data, you really have a lucid, transparent organization where, again, all those kind of issues just start to fall into place organically, which then sets us up for the 4th key component, and that's issues. And issues is getting really good about a discipline and accountability, a cadence, a culture of lining up issues within the business as they arise and knocking them down for the greater good of the business forever before they become systemic problems that are impossible to solve. 5th key component is process. That's the one where I feel like I'm going to lose people. So don't bear with me. Don't yawn yet. I know process is painful for a lot of companies. In fact, it's so painful that a lot of companies just don't even bother with it. And we're going to talk about why it's and how it's actually can make your business more efficient, more fun, more profitable, easier to manage. And it's just simply about getting the right things done, the most important things done the right way every time by everyone. And last, but certainly not least in the model is traction. And traction is about bringing the vision of the business down into the ground and executing every day with accountability and discipline, no matter where you look through the organization. It's harnessing human energy to align and row in a singular direction towards the achievement of that agreed upon and well-defined vision. There's a saying that we like here at EOS called vision without traction is hallucination. And that's where so many good would-be great entrepreneurial organizations fall down, because a phenomenal idea just can't come to life every day with disciplined, accountable execution. And that's what traction is. So that is the EOS model. And all together, the EOS model, or the entrepreneurial operating system, was designed to help entrepreneurial leaders and their teams live a better life, run a better business, get more of what you want from the business. So, the one thing that EOS cannot do is, if you're in the wrong market, offering the wrong product or service, EOS is not going to help you there. It is a model that's all about execution. So if you're in the right, provided you're in the right space with the right offering, EOS is going to help you execute better. We measure progress on a scale, we'll call it scientific but subjective, of 0 to 100%. And we know any EOS business, there's a cadence of checking in, of self-assessments to take stock of how far we've come and to benchmark progress. We know that 100% is utopia. It's fiction. It just doesn't exist. So our goal, and any EOS's business goal, is 80% plus strong. Once you're at 80% strong in each of the 6 key components, you are running a well-oiled machine. You have internalized EOS in the very kind of fabric of the business, your DNA. Some companies get really close. Truth be told, most businesses, if they're honest with themselves, start at around 20%, succeeding in spite of themselves. Long nights at the office, weekends, just grinding. And so our goal, 80% plus strong. So that's the what. Let's get into the how. So we're going to walk around the model, and I'll go through each of the key tools. The first is the 8 questions, answering the 8 questions. And there's if anyone's interested in a copy of this, it's called the Vision Traction Organizer. And it is a tool that, if you get nothing else, I did promise you that you'll walk away today with tools you can use going into your business coming out of this. The VTO, or Vision Traction Organizer, is one of them. So please feel free to send us a message, and anyone who wants a copy of this, be happy to send it to you after the fact. So it is a place where the leadership team all gets together, an artifact to document the vision for the organization. And vision is, not only do you need a vision articulated, but you need to agree on it, right? The entire company has to align around that vision. So before I get into this, I'll preface by saying there's actually EOS has a family version of the Vision Traction Organizer. And when I first was going through EOS training, when I was becoming an implementer, I found out about this, came home from an exhaustive 3 days of training, sat down with my wife, a wonderful woman that I couldn't be happier in our relationship, marriage for 7 years. And we put our child to bed, we opened up a bottle of wine, and we went through the family VTO. And there are, as a familial leadership team, there were things that we had just never talked about explicitly, about the vision for what we want as a family, how we are going to architect our life, and the decisions that we make to achieve that vision that we have collectively for our kids and us. And we walked away from that table about an hour and a half later. We had a slight buzz because we killed a bottle of Tuscan wine and red, and just just feeling more aligned and connected than I think maybe we ever had. So the VTO, there's some differences for the family version, but it's really designed to do just that, to connect you and your leadership team, ultimately all your employees, in a way where everyone's on the same page about the vision and feeling really good about being a part of it. So I'll walk you through each of these. I know you can't see it, but I'll be pretty detailed. So the 8 questions start with core values. Core values are about creating the kind of culture that you want within your organization. And instead of, like everything in EOS, this is designed to be put into action. So core values is not some squishy page on a website or, poster up on the wall that means nothing other than, feels good, sounds good to say. We want to actually use core values in a real way in the business. And when we get into the people component, I'm going to talk about how core values can be used to attract the kind of people you want in your organization and repel the kind that you don't. Core focus is the next question. And core focus is, you probably heard, or some of you might be familiar with the term hedgehog concept from Stephen Covey, or voice Stephen Covey. Jim Collins is hedgehog concept. So apologies for another consulting term, but we call it core focus. And that is your sweet spot. That is what gets you out of bed every day and what you do better than anybody. And when this gets used correctly, it serves as a North Star that directs strategic decision making to keep you laser focused on that sweet spot. So as you guys know, there's going to be a lot of shiny objects that come up in the course of a business that might steer you off path. You have a limited supply of resources, human capital. You have to stay focused and know exactly where your sweet spot is. So having a well-defined, agreed upon core focus does just that. 10-year target. We used 5 years. 10 years, some clients do 20. We do 10 here on the VTO because that's the typical time frame. That's your big business goal. That is be the strategic owner. That's sell. That's $2 million capital accumulation. That's exceed your EBITDA goals. That's your one big business goal to get everybody rallied around, all the troops, and what you see for the business long term. And then marketing strategy. That is, simply put, you have precious few resources that you can devote to sales and marketing. And your marketing strategy is about who you are going to talk to and what you're going to say to them. So it's all about creating your target market, the list. So psychographics, demographics, geographics of exactly who your customer is, because you can't be all things to all people. And then what are you going to say to them? We call it the 3 uniques, the 3 things that make you special, make your business different than any other competitor, that you can clearly point to every time you're talking to your prospects or your customers or members. We call it the proven process. That's typically a 1-page illustration that shows from the moment that a potential member finds out about you to the moment they're a raving evangelist shouting your praises from every rooftop. What does that whole journey look like? It just shows that you're really buttoned up. You've been there before. You have a very refined process. And then what we call the guarantee. That is simply a way to preempt objections that a customer or member might have. A lot of times you're not going to get honesty from a prospective customer. They're just not going to say what's really on their mind or in their heart. So a guarantee is a way to answer questions that they may or may not even explicitly ask and put them at ease about doing business with you. So once you've got your core values, your core focus, 10-year target, your marketing strategy, you know exactly who you are at your core. You know where you're going, and you know how you're going to get there. And that's when we start to get more into the execution part of the business. So we work on creating a 3-year picture, and we're taking an entrepreneurial approach. This is not, an MBA program. This is a high-level entrepreneurial approach to strategic planning. So a 3-year picture is all about assigning a future date, 3 years down the road, what your revenue and profit looks like, and then what we call measurables are really 10 to 15 descriptive bullet points about what does that future look like. It's 5 studios in these 2 cities. It's me checking in on my laptop once a day for an hour and then going back to sipping Mai Tais or sailing or fishing. It's just puts in the mind's eye of everyone in the organization what that future state looks like. When you have a really good 3-year picture, you've got 2 really great benefits that occur. One, again, when everybody has the same picture in their mind's eye, the odds of achieving that picture are exponentially greater. And then it sets you up for great 1-year planning. So we flip over, and again, for those who want to copy this, happy to send you a PDF. We get into 1-year planning. A 1-year plan, same kind of metrics as far as future date, revenue, profit, but then we start to get a little bit more refined. And our goal with 1-year planning is 3 to 7 absolute priorities for the business to achieve over the next 12 months, to lead into achieving your 3-year, they would lead into achieving your big picture, your 10-year target. 3 to 7 is the rule of thumb. When everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. Less is more. Always, we beat that drum until that horse is, I just mixed my metaphors. We'll beat that drum until that horse is dead, but less is more in EOS land. It keeps us, we want to stay laser focused. So those 3 to 7 top priorities that have to be accomplished. And then we get further down into the nitty gritty and what we call rocks. And rocks is all about living in a 90-day world. Every 90 days, we're running to achieve the ultimate priorities for the business. And we get back together and determine what are the absolute priorities for the business and each department over the next 90 days. We assign accountabilities for the departmental leaders. We assign, we make them smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time constrained. And then we go back into, we kind of realign, we reharness that energy, we get on the same page, then we go back into execution mode. So that's assigning those 90-day rocks. Again, 3 to 7 is the rule of thumb. And last but not least is issues list. So issues list, I mentioned before that when you have strong people, vision, and data, you've got a clear, lucid, transparent organization where all your issues sort of kind of fall into place. And issues list is about creating a culture and a discipline where anything that's on anybody's mind in the organization, whether it's a challenge, an obstacle, an idea, an opportunity, there is a place to put that where you know it's not going to just float into the ether. It's going to be addressed, prioritized, and solved for. There's real therapy in having that place where when you wake up at 2 in the morning, you don't have to worry about losing it because there is a place you can put it, document it, that lives and is active within a leadership team where it's going to be addressed. And if it is a priority, ultimately going to be solved for. So that is the VTO. If nothing else today, I encourage you to do an exercise with your team with this document that I'll send to you and actually use this and inject it into the business. It's really powerful.
Hey, Justin,
yeah.
I'm going to chat your email. Is it justin.mink or justinmink at EOS Worldwide?
It's justin.mink
Perfect.
EOS Worldwide. Yeah.
All right. So for everyone, just chatted Justin's email. If you have any questions on these tools, Justin's always very generous with the time and he can share with you the tools or a copy of the book. I just want to say one thing about the Vision Traction Organizer. It is the most important tool we probably have at our company. It is on our public board. We use it in hiring to show everyone where we're going, what problems we're trying to solve, priorities for the year. And oh, sorry, my Wi-Fi. We share with new hires, all current employees on all performance reviews. It's discussed pretty much every single week, and we get great feedback from all of our team members about how the transparency from the leadership team to the rest of the company on where we are, where we're going, what we see as important. So it's been a very useful tool. Justin, there are a couple questions. If you want to field those at the end or not.
I want to field them at the end. Yeah, let's field them at the end. We got a lot of content to roll through. I want to make sure this is really important to understand how all these tools stitch together because it's like any system. It's like your body, right? If you have a pain in your shoulder, it could be caused by something in your lower back. So all of this works together. So I want to make sure that when we get to questions, there's a full understanding of how the model sort of harmonizes and orchestrates all the moving parts and pieces of the business. So once we have those 8 questions answered, there's alignment and agreement. You got to tell your team, right? You have to share it. So there's tools to set up a cadence of sharing where you're at each quarter, where the company is, where you're going, how you're going to get there, what your priorities are, so that ultimately everyone in the organization understands it, has buy-in, feels really good about their part in the achievement of the vision and their role, how they're going to be a big factor in aligning and helping the company achieve its overall objectives. Not to get too kumbaya on you guys, but there is real magic and the stars really do align when the whole company, top to bottom, is all on the same page about the vision. And I don't know about you guys, but I've certainly been a part of companies where we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. And you hear the water cooler talk of what is this for? Why are we doing this? And it doesn't feel good. It starts to chip away at morale and undermine what the company's trying to achieve. People start asking, does the company even know what it wants to achieve? So sharing it is really important once you have it. So next is people. People, there's a lot of influence from Jim Collins in EOS, Good to Great and Built to Last. Great books if you haven't read them. So he coined the term right people, right seats. We're going to make it a little more tangible, bring it down into the ground of how it actually manifests in your business. And simply put, you've got to have both. Right people, right seats. It's non-negotiable. So right people is just having people who fit your culture like a glove. You know, they are everything that you want to represent about all the values that you hold dear that define who you are, the characteristics of your culture. And there's a tool called the People Analyzer that actually has objective criteria that will help as you go out and hire. It will help facilitate clear conversations with your existing team about where they're excelling and where they might be falling short. And actually, when you start using the People Analyzer, what we see happening is that people issues start getting smoked out because there's no hiding. There's absolutely no hiding. Ultimately, people who are not right people in the organization, not only is the company best served, they're best served by exiting, right? The next is right seats. Right seats is a tool called the accountability chart. And for all of those out here who are hoping to elevate and delegate, or excuse me, to delegate to elevate, this is you're going to want to pay attention, because this is the tool to help you do that. So I'm going to make a little more room here. Accountability chart is all about creating a structure that is required to support the business. Structure. It seems like a subtle distinction, but it's key. This is not an org chart. Org charts are typically built from people on down. So look at the people we have, build an org chart where those people are the first consideration of how we build that hierarchy. People and titles. This is about structure first, people second. What is the structure required to support the needs of the business and ultimately the growth of the business, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in the business? So the accountability chart starts with the basic assumption that every business has three basic fundamental core functions. Sales and marketing, right? How you're going out, speaking to your audience, ultimately bringing in deals, closing business, customers. Ops, handful of ops, how you deliver the product service. Maybe it's your team of instructors, the staff, the software you use, right? How you're servicing your customers. And then finance and admin. Forgive my lefty chicken scratch. I'm working on my board handwriting. It's a work in progress. Probably would be a lifelong work in progress. Money flowing in and out of the business, financial controls, HR, IT, M&A. Those are the three basic functions. The first customization that occurs in the accountability chart is determining exactly what is the right structure for your business. These will break out. Sales and marketing might be its own unique leadership functions and departments. Ops might have a couple different departments. Maybe IT is its own department. HR is its own department. So breaking out, customizing the structure, the leadership seats and the functional departments within your business, that's the first customization that occurs. Then there's another seat, that of the integrator. Some of you out there who are stuck in this seat right now, I think Bill, it sounds like you want to be the strategic owner of the business, but you are probably playing an integrator role. You are beating the drum in the organization. You are the glue. You are aligning all the different functions and team members on the team to align in the achievement of your singular vision. In every company, there's always tension between departments. That's natural. You have a limited supply of resources, and every departmental leader is tasked with fighting, ensures that tension is healthy. Now, 50% of the time, there's another seat, and that's the visionary. The visionary is typically strategic thinker, creative thinker, comes to every team meeting with 20 ideas. 19 of them might be crazy. One of them is going to chart the entire 10-year next decade of the company's growth trajectory. They handle the strategic relationships, whether, big customers, vendors, partners. They're not good at accountability. They're not good at execution. There are a lot of times it's the founding entrepreneur. If a visionary is trapped in the integrator seat, what ends up happening is the business suffers from lots of 90-day spikes, because the visionary will have an idea, get incredibly excited about it, get the entire company fired up, but because they're the ones who are also in charge of day-to-day execution and accountability, they lose focus inevitably. 90 days later, the thing that they thought about and got everybody excited about a quarter ago is lost to the next sexy thing. And ultimately, that ends up creating organizational whiplash. And after a few years of that, a very skeptical, cynical group of employees who go, oh, yep, Bill's got another wild idea out there. We're not going to invest much time into this, even though he's asking us to fill out this information. Sorry, Bill, I'm not trying to pick on you. You probably aren't like this. So if there is a visionary that you identify in the organization that sits separately from the integrator, you got to call it out, and you got to crystallize the roles of each of those two seats. When we say crystallize the roles, we go through an exercise to actually assign 5 roles or accountabilities for each one of those seats. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is create a marriage between a visionary and an integrator that is like rocket fuel in the business. In fact, there's a book called Rocket Fuel all about that relationship, and how it really does, if you can have the right integrator, the right visionary partner together, is an incredible fuel for the business. Ultimately, we're going to crystallize the roles in each one of the seats. And then we're going to create an accountability chart for the entire organization where every single person in your company has 5 defined roles that they are accountable for. Only one person can sit in each seat. You cannot have 2 people in a seat. So Bill, you might be the visionary integrator, and maybe you're also the head of sales, but you cannot have Aren and Bill in one seat, because nobody's responsible. And then mom and dad get into fights. Nobody knows exactly where the buck stops, who to go to determine those decisions. So you have to have one person. One person can be in multiple seats. You cannot have 2 people in a seat. Now you're going to run into two primary people issues. To one degree or another, you have 2 issues, right? Right people, wrong seat. They fit your culture like a glove. They represent everything you want to be. You want to show the world about, who you are at your core, but they just don't have a job that they perform well, right? So ideally, once you create an accountability chart and use the people analyzer, you can find a seat for that right person where they can consistently be excellent. If you cannot, I urge you, I plead you, I beg with you, you are a for-profit business, I assume, and for the good of the business and for that employee, you've got to part ways. The other problem is more pervasive, and that's wrong person, right seat. That is someone who kills it at their job. They are performing, they're hitting their numbers, but they do not represent your culture. They give permission to the rest of the team to act in ways that are counter to what you're trying to build. They are chipping away behind the scenes at everything you're trying to build for the long term. And as difficult as it is to eliminate someone from the business who's performing, they have to go, because ultimately they're going to be a cancer that metastasizes in the business. So right people, right seat, the accountability chart structure first, then we use the people analyzer to fill in the right people. And that's for you folks who want to be strategic and get out of the trenches. Ultimately, this is a great exercise and tool to help you delegate and elevate to your true unique ability and to what you want out of the business. So that's right people, right seat. We're going to move a little faster. Those were the 2 most in-depth. We're getting into data. By the way, that's what our hypothetical 100% looks like in each of those 2 categories. So data is 2 primary tools here: scorecard, measurables. Scorecard is all about creating an artifact that gives you an absolute pulse week in, week out on the health of the business. 10 to 15 measurables, that's activity-based measurables, numbers that you control that are leading indicators of performance in the business. So ultimately, it takes about 30 to 90 days to fall in love with the scorecard. Because your first iteration, your first cut, you're going to start using it in your weekly meetings, and we'll get into meetings here in a moment. And you're going to start, well, this number doesn't really feel like it's really an absolute must know. This one we really need to know this week in, week out. So ultimately, over time, you're going to start to dial into 10 to 15 numbers that give you the absolute pulse. It's the desert island test. If you're on a vacation and you're in a deserted island and you're sipping on a Corona and the cabana boy or girl comes along with your scorecard from that week's leadership team meeting, within 3 minutes of looking at it, you should understand everything's on track, or there's some problems that I need to, drop the ops leader or the sales leader a line and get some clarity. We assign a member of the team, the leadership team, who's responsible for each measurable, what the goal is, and then we start off by going 13 weeks back into the business to identify those trend lines. So ultimately, a good scorecard gives you a sort of a proactive approach to identifying things before they get out of control, or opportunities even that you can capitalize on quickly, give you an absolute pulse on the health of the business week in, week out. That's the scorecard. Next is issues list, and that's 100% in the data category. Issues list comes from another discovery. So this one, whenever I'm in the room with people delivering this presentation, there's always some chuckles. So we talked about the issues list. That's having that place where there's a discipline, accountability, and a culture of getting out of your head onto a place that you know is going to be triaged. All the issues, obstacles, challenges, opportunities. And then we call this the issue solving track. We IDS. IDS stands for identify, discuss, and solve. So this stems from the discovery that even great companies struggle with talking about the same issues for years and years and years till they're blue in the face. This is usually when the chuckling starts. Over and over, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, the same issues just seem to be pervasive. There's never resolution. There's never solution. We just always talk about it, but never have real clarity about solving for it. So IDS is a tool to help end that vicious cycle. So first we identify. Every week we have our running issues list, and we prioritize. What are our top 3 issues on this list that we need to IDS? Then we move into discuss. Discuss is every single member of the team saying what who has a stake or an opinion or a viewpoint on that issue, saying what they have to say once. Repeating yourself is politicking. So it is an absolute no-no. You say what you have to say once. And then once that discussion becomes redundant, we move into solve. Solve is assigning accountability. What is the action item we are taking? When is it going to be accomplished by? And moving on, ultimately eliminating that issue forever. You're going to get so good at that, you're going to establish such a rhythm that you're going to start knocking off 3, 6, 9 issues at a time. This turns those boring reporting meetings where every week it's just talking about the same issues and a recap of here's what happened, here's what happened, here's what happened, into knockdown, drag out, passionate debate, healthy debate. Everyone says what they have to say. Ultimately, ideally, there's alignment, but if there's not, the integrator makes the call. The integrator decides the strategic execution. So that's the tiebreaker. Everybody then moves forward, solving those issues. That is, I'd say, one of the most powerful. That's where it all comes together. It comes to fruition into the ground of the business is IDSing. And again, Those boring meetings there should be fireworks, passion, blood, sweat, tears. I was in a session with the client once where we spent out of an 8-hour day, we spent about 40 minutes on one issue. So I'm thinking to myself, am I doing a good job here? My role is that of a facilitator, coach, teacher. So am I facilitating this the right way? Because we're spending an awful lot of time on this one issue. Well, we finally solved it. And 5 people started clapping, the whole leadership team. And I was like, what's that, guys? And the integrator said, we've been working on this issue. We've had this issue that we've been discussing for 4 years. This is the first time we've solved for it, and we have a plan. So that's the power of IDS. So that is 100% strong in issues. Next is process. Process. All right, stay with me here. I understand why process is so painful. Because when you think process, you think 700-page SOP manual that sits in a Google Drive folder that nobody ever looks at because it's so hairy and long that somebody had to spend 2 weeks writing for no reason. Totally boring. We're never going to use it. Why bother? Everyone hates it, right? That is the absolute antithesis of what the EOS viewpoint, the lens through which we view process. So process should be used day in, day out. It should be used to hire, fire, review, reward, recognize. And it is all about taking, again, a very entrepreneurial approach. We're going to make the assumption that you have a handful of core processes in the business. What's your sales process? What's your customer care or customer service process? Accounting, HR, a handful of ops, maybe it's training. And we take a very entrepreneurial approach to documenting the 80-20 rule, 80% of the value with 20% of the effort, or in this case, steps. So we want to document only those core, 5, 6, 4 things that absolutely have to be done to do it your way by everyone, the right way every time. Then we document it and we use it day in, day out in the business. 1 to 3 pages max, right? Again, it's how you hire. You should be reviewing this with hires in your interview process. You should be sitting down with these documents, a simple 1 to 2, 3 pages max with your team to talk about their performance and are they following the process. So that is process. Again, if you do it right, it actually is used in a way that makes the business much easier to manage. It gives people a real understanding of their accountability and are they in fact performing their task, their job role effectively up to your expectations. Employees respect what employers inspect. And so you have to have a process that's simple to follow and that you can inspect without too much complication or complexity. And last, but certainly not least, is traction. So traction is all about living in that 90-day world. Rocks is the first tool. So every 90 days, you got your head down, you're sprinting, right? It's pure execution mode. And human nature, psychology dictates that every 90 days, focus starts to fray, relationships start to fray, energy starts to fray. I don't know if any of you guys use the app Duolingo. It's pretty cool. One of my, I have a personal VTO. And on my 10-year target, one of my goals is be fluent in Spanish in 10 years. I just have this image of being in like Oaxaca, like fluently having a conversation at a restaurant while my wife and kids look on in awe. So it's just my weird thing. But I see that vision. I'm gonna have it happen. And I use Duolingo. And so the first 90 days, I'm like cranking and I'm seeing my stats, and Duolingo gamifies it. So you're moving up from the Sapphire to the Diamond League. And I'm so obsessed with it. It's Saturday night. My wife and I are watching Netflix and my phone buzzes and I'm like, well, we got to pause it. She's like, what the heck? We're right in the middle of this good scene. I'm like, oh, Betty from Wisconsin just beat my score and knocked me off first place in the Diamond League. I gotta take a couple lessons. So at the end of 90 days, all of a sudden it got harder because I kind of passed that beginner phase and I started to see the time spent started to drop off a cliff. my points started to drop off a cliff. I'd reached the highest league and I had nothing left to motivate me. There was no more game left to play. So I really had to kind of get disciplined about breaking through that ceiling to the next evolution of my kind of intermediate phase of learning. And so that applies to anything that humans are in, any endeavor we're engaged in. So every 90 days, all about realigning, seeing where we're at. Is the VTO still accurate? Is our vision, our 1 year, our 3 year goals still the same? Do they need tweaks? Has the market changed? Has a pandemic come along? Has new competition entered the marketplace? New trends? Realigning, agreeing on those priorities, setting goals, setting accountabilities, getting back down into the business and sprinting. And the next is what we call the L10 meeting. So I'm gonna, that is again where your weekly meetings are, where this all comes to fruition in a real material way. And this is all about making those meetings, turning them from, you know, dreaded, boring reporting meetings into meetings that actually you look forward to, where you're solving problems and you are open and honest and vulnerable with one another. So there's an L10 meeting agenda. Again, if anyone wants to see a copy of this after the fact, I'm happy to send it. We start with a segue. 5 minutes, personal and business best, just to get you thinking outside of the business, start to get things flowing, start to feel different than the normal day-to-day kind of minutia, grinding in the trenches feel. Then scorecard review. So those 10 to 15 numbers that give you an absolute pulse on the health of the business. We don't discuss this in the review. On track or off track? On track, great. Any of those numbers are off track, we drop it down to IDS. Rock review. What are those 3 to 7 priorities for the company this quarter? Are we on track or off track? On track, great. Off track, drop it down. We don't discuss it yet. Customer employee headlines. Are there any people issues in the business or big customer issues? If there are, if there's good news, great. Bad news, drop it down. Now, instead of an entire meeting that's a reporting review, we did this, we did this. 15 minutes out of 90 is reporting. Because we're going to spend our time solving problems, not reviewing the past, but looking ahead to the future. We got a 5-minute to-do list. What are the action items that came out of the last level 10 meeting? Are we solving them? You're going to get so good at this that 90% of your to-dos every week are getting knocked off. If there are any left that are unsolved, drop it down to IDS. And then we're going to spend 60 minutes here solving problems, identifying, getting down to the root cause, prioritizing, discussing briefly, solving forever for the good of the business. And then last but not least, we recap the to-do list. What are we doing? Who's responsible? When is it due? What's the action item? Let's put it on our to-do list. Cascading messaging. What do we need to communicate to our team coming out of this meeting? Who needs to know what so that our team is aligned? And then we rate the meeting together collectively 1 to 10. We track that every week. Ultimately, we call it an L10 meeting because we want to get to a 10 week over week. So that is the EOS model. Again, it is designed to get whatever, deliver whatever it is you want from a business, more value, elevate your role, get out of the day-to-day weeds, exit in 3 years, achieve your EBITDA goals, whatever it is. Having a discipline to orchestrate and harmonize all those moving parts and pieces. We like to call it, you create a self-managing business. And that is EOS. So I wanted to leave just a few minutes for questions, and we can hang out for as long as you guys want to hang out. But let's open the floor. And thank you, everybody. If you're leaving now, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Justin. If you have any comments, just chat them in the chat box to everyone or just to the panelists, and we'll make sure to address them. And if you would like any of the tools or have any questions, you can put Justin's email in the chat. It's justin.mink@EOS Worldwide. One question, Justin, from Terry Townsend. Whenever you were talking about assigning rocks and priorities, you said we assign, and his question was, who is the we? Is it the presenter? Is it a consultant who comes in and leads the process?
It's the leadership team. So the integrator, the visionary, and each department head gets together on a quarterly basis and prioritizes for the next quarter. So it's a collective decision by the leadership team. Ultimately, the rocks for the company are collectively decided. The integrator is the tiebreaker. The departmental rocks are the rocks for each individual departmental leader. So a set of sales rocks, a set of ops rocks. The departmental leader decides those and gets approval from the rest of it. So that quarter, okay, let's take some time to assign our own individual rocks for the department that you lead. And then let's go around the room, say your rocks, make sure they're written smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time constrained. Do we all agree? Or is there any debate about, well, this rock for sales, maybe we really need to adjust that number, and then we move on. So, but for the company, it's a collective decision from the leadership team.
Awesome. Terry had a great follow-up question, which is you can for sure address. He said, is EOS a book we buy and implement? Is it a seminar we attend, or is it something we hire a facilitator to lead?
So you can self-implement. There are plenty of businesses out there who implement EOS themselves. You can hire a professional implementer like myself to run full-day sessions for you. Over the course of 2 years, it's about 10 full-day sessions where someone like myself or me would facilitate, ultimately coach, teach you to become masters of EOS, where you don't need my help anymore after a couple of years. One thing I should point out is that just as important as smarts, so all of these tools are designed to help you run a smarter business, but it's just as important as healthy. It's creating open, honest vulnerability where the leadership team feels comfortable being honest with each other, direct, even confrontational, but in a healthy way. So part of what my role is when I work with a client is to ensure that health, to hold everybody accountable so that there's not one member that is surrounded by yes people. There has to be vulnerability and everyone is on the same equal footing, because without that accountability to one another, that honesty, that openness to change, it's not going to work. So the healthy part is just as important as the smart part. I think the healthy part is a big part of what someone like myself does when we come in and ensure that there's that team health.
It's a great answer, Justin. Patrick said, is Traction the first book to read in the EOS series? It is the first book to read in the EOS series, right, Justin?
It's the first one written. There's Traction, there's How to Be a Great Boss, there's Rocket Fuel, there's the EOS Life, which is a new one that just came out. There's Get a Grip, which is a business fable about one business's kind of journey from start to finish working with an implementer. That one was enlightening to me because it really was what convinced me to become an implementer, like actually seeing what it looked like in practice, in action. I was like, okay, that's something that I want to do. I want to help teams do.
If anyone would like a copy of Traction, you can email Justin or myself, and we'll provide you with a paid copy. So we'll ship that out to you. Just email Justin or myself, and we'll get you a copy. And then another question here from Topher Nelson: any suggestions for getting the team together for a meeting when so many are part-time and not able to meet at the same time? Real quick on that, Topher, I know you know Peter. Peter runs EOS. He's one of the other owners here at Franchise Ramp. He runs a full EOS system for his 11 studios and Club Pilates across 2 different states in Arizona and Ohio. And he'd be a great person to reach out for how he implements. But Justin, do you have any advice on part-time and how to get everyone to meet?
Well, if it's your leadership team you're talking about for that L10, that there's 2 reasons to miss an L10 meeting: vacation or death, and that's your own death. So yeah, it's a little cheeky, but there has to be like that time that you spend together every week is sacred. You have to protect it and prioritize it, and not get loose about moving things around. If someone can't make it because they're on vacation, or I was being a little cheeky, things happen, right? A sick kid or whatever it is, that the show goes on, the meeting happens, and you just update the team member who missed it. But If it's your leadership team meeting, you just got to figure out what works and be disciplined about conducting it same time, same day, every week.
So Topher, that's a great point, Justin. So the leadership team meeting at Franchise Ramp is Mondays at noon. And then each department has their own meetings. So I think Peter with his Club Pilates has one with each one of the regional managers. And then those regional managers have L10s with their leadership teams in each state at different times that work for those individual teams. So you can work that throughout the organization. Any other questions for Justin here? How well does this work with a small organization? I'm filling many of the seats.
Got it. Organizations of all shapes, sizes, types use EOS. The target EOS business is 10 to 250 employees. That's like the sweet spot. Typically between 2 and 250 million a year in annual revenue. But there are companies that have 4 people that use EOS because they're using it to help craft their hiring strategy and to help scale and to make sure that they have the infrastructure required to grow. There are companies that have 1,000 that use it. There are private equity firms that require signing the term sheet. They insert an implementer like myself to shore up the operations of that company. So it runs the spectrum, but 10 to 250 employees is our target.
Jim, I would say it's super helpful for helping you successfully fill the seats, just so you get the accountabilities on whatever roles you're hiring. But any other questions?
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, if there's no other questions, you can always contact me offline. And again, if you want any of those tools, I'm happy to send them, or if you want to talk further. But thank you, Aren, and Franchise Ramp too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. I'm going to chat Justin's email one more time. If you'd like a copy of Traction or any of the tools, just email Justin or myself. Thank you so much, Justin, and hope to see everyone next time for the
Bye, guys.
March for the next edition of the Ramp Up. Bye, guys.
Be well. Thanks again.